This example will also show how to create a histogram in R, but it will also show how to filter for a particular variable. So again, the very first thing is in the R console, type in your data set. In this case, I'm using cancer. I want to read a CSV file, and the file is located at this web address. Again, these is in the notes. You can also get the ones for the homework from the homework file. Now, again, it's a good idea to look at these. So I'm going to do head, and then the name of the variable. And the name of the variable in this case, or the data set I should say, is cancer. And this will show me that my two variables in this case are survival time and organ. There are sometimes data sets can have many variables. Up to this point, you've basically been seeing just one variable, but this one has two. If you actually want to see more of the data, you can just type in the name cancer, the name of the data set, and it'll show you more of that. So you can see that this data set involves the survival times of different types of cancer: stomach cancer, bronchitis, colon cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer. So that gives you the information that's in there. Now let's say we want to actually draw a histogram of this. So we've already done histograms, but I'm going to show you again how to do it. You're going to do a histogram, which is just hist, and then the data set is cancer, and then the variable I want to use is survival time. Now make sure you again type it in exactly as it is in the data set. In the data set it is survival with a capital survival and underscore time. So that is the name of the variable that we have to use. And then I'd like to put a different title than R puts on it. So I'm going to put in cancer survival times. Again, close the quotes. I would like to have a different X label. So I'll put in, again, these are survival times. And these seem to be in days. Close the quote. And then I'll put in a different Y label. And maybe I'll put in number of people. Now, again, I don't like gray, so I pick a different color. For some reason, I always use blue. Don't know why, but I just like the color blue. All right, and now it's created a nice graph for me. You can't see all of it yet, but I'll make it smaller so you can see all of it. And here is a nice graph of this data. It's not a great graph because it seems to be skewed right, because this is where the small amount of data is, so that's what makes it skewed, and not where the big stuff is. So this is not considered skewed left because you see the big stuff here. It's skewed right because of the small stuff. And this is not a very nice graph for people surviving cancers. All right, but that being the case, it could be that there are certain type of cancers that make it skewed. So you might want to actually graph based on a different type of cancer. And take, instead of having all of these cancers together, maybe just look at one type of cancer. So this is what is known as filtering. So you're going to make a new cancer. I'm going to do it for breast cancer. So I'm going to make a new variable, I'm sorry. And I'm going to do it for the breast cancer. And I'm going to do breast cancer. Breast is my new variable. And it's going to be cancer. And that's just the data set I'm using. And then in that data set, you don't put a parenthesis, you put a bracket. So cancer is the data set I'm working with, and inside the bracket I put in cancer, and then I put in a $sign, and I want to base on the organ. And I want the organ to be equal to, and yes, it is a double equal sign that I just typed. So it's not just a single equal sign. You're going to type in an equal sign and then an equal sign again. And I want to do it for breast. And notice that breast in this data set is capitalized, so breast needs to be capitalized here. And then after this, you put a comma, and then just hit enter. And again, it doesn't look like it's done anything, but it actually has saved the breast cancer, the data for breast cancer in a separate variable, separate data set called breast. If you want to, you can look at that by just typing in breast. And there is the survival times just for breast cancer. So we basically extracted those from the bigger data set and made a new data set. And you can now, with that information, graph this one. So if you now want to do a histogram, so hist of breast, and then again, we still want to do survival times. So there are still two variables in this data set, survival time and organ, just the one organ happens to only be breast. So breast survival time, and then again, put in a nice title. This is survival time for breast cancer. And then I probably want to do a different X label and Y label. So maybe the X label might be time in days, and the Y label, and again, don't forget to open and close your labels in quotes. And I'll do that one that way. And then again, I just happen to like it not being gray, so I like to pick a different color. Just for the fun of it, let's pick a different color. Let's do purple, just so you can see what it looks like when it's purple. Again, I didn't close that other window, so my actual graph window is behind the window I'm working with right now. So I can move the one window out of the way and click on this. You can also, in R, there's a menu at the top, and in that menu is a window as one of the picks, and you can pick on to change that into the window that is Quartz 2 on the Mac. On a PC, it actually, I think, says graph. So there is my graph, and I can see that it is still skewed right, but the survival time seems to be a little bit higher here, but it's just because we have less data to work with, so the bars don't have as high to go with. So it is still skewed right, and there is still this gap here, which means that there are people that only survived this many days, but there are people that actually went beyond. And that's how we do filtering. Again, you can now copy and paste this into a Word document and be able to work with it. I do want to make the disclaimer that this data is very limited. Please do not use this as a thought about what's happening with survival times, and that they have actually gotten much better at cancer treatments. So this data is probably a bit old and is very limited because there really are only 5, 9, 12 data points. So that's not a lot to deal with.